Now we're live.
Now we're live.
Perfect.
Hello. So coming to you from Byron Bay, Australia. I've got Toney here for a visit for a few days on his way from Brisbane down to Sydney, having a little meetup at the Sun Bistro. Got almost 20 people here. Hi guys.
Hey guys. Here, we'll do a little circle. Okay, everybody can just wave and say hi.
Docs everyone.
Docs to everybody.
Facial recognition.
Then we'll just go around. Done.
Back.
No, too much.
So it was.
There you go.
So thanks everyone for coming. It was maybe like 2.5 years that I went to my first Bitcoin meetup, and it was right here. There are, I think, one or two here today that were at that first Bitcoin meetup. So that was in mid-2017, and I was horrified by how little everyone knew and by how everyone just wanted to put 10 grand into some coin. Like what's the
2017?
latest? Yeah.
Early, late, big difference.
Early. Mid.
Mid, had to be mid.
So yeah, the ICO boom was happening.
Oh, yeah,
it was midstream, and
yeah.
it was just disgusting. Like everyone wanted to just know which coin, and everyone was jumping on every ICO that came up, right? And I was just horrified because I was interested in Bitcoin because I'm interested in sound money and the problems with central banking and fractional reserve banking and so on. So I pretty much didn't go to any more meetups until the bear market. And since after the ICO bubble popped, a lot of people lost stacks of money in this area, in this region. A lot of people lost a lot of money and they don't talk about it. And I think, yeah, maybe some of the people who were giving them advice at the time should think about that. They don't seem to have any remorse. But so thanks for coming. We're going to talk about Bitcoin today. That's the big innovation in terms of changing the world by having sound money. I was fortunate enough to find people like Toney and Saifedean and Jimmy Song and some of these guys who...
Oh man, I gotta put on, you brought all of your Bitcoin books.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a good collection.
You guys wanna hold some of those up? Man, we got, well, I was hoping for like Saifedean's book and like the Bitcoin Rabbi book.
Yeah,
there they
I
are.
haven't read Knut's book yet, but Inventing Bitcoin there is fantastic. Shout out to Jan. Bitcoin Standard.
There it is. There's the Bitcoin
Standard. And Grokking Bitcoin's in there too. Carl Rosenbaum probably got that pronunciation wrong.
Do you have more Bitcoin books than I do at home? Jeez.
I've got more Bitcoin books than Bitcoin. That's for sure. Yeah. So we're going to, I think that's all I wanted to say. So we're going to do a little bit of a Q&A from the audience here and then have a nice steak dinner or whatever you want to eat. One question I wanted to get started with. Yeah,
let's do, throw some questions in. But before you do, I got to say, guys, I really like Australia. I mean, I'm always like defending Australia on my live streams because like some of the people like Andreas don't want to go to Australia or New Zealand because of the, we have the right to search your phone or we're not going to let you in the country. We were driving down the highway and I'm like, did I read that sign right? They can take video pictures of you holding a cell phone and you get fined. So look, there's a lot of like crazy stuff that goes on, but I really like Australia. And it's really surprising. Australia is my third biggest viewership base of my YouTube channel. The first two are US and UK, and the third one is Australia. And very Bitcoin friendly. I really like coming here. It's great. I really should come to Australia more often. Really enjoyed. You guys support me. I got recognized 3 times randomly in the streets. One of them is here. Randomly 3 times I got recognized on the streets. One other guy just today was hilarious.
He was a little bit tipsy and like jumped out of his car. Are you Toney Vays? Are you Toney?
It was an Aussie from Melbourne was just, driving through. I had no idea I was even in Australia. And just like ran out of the car because he recognized me. It was great.
And then we had one on the live stream this morning.
Yeah.
And you had one yesterday at the Gold Coast as well.
That was right there.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks for coming down.
All right. All right. So let's do a little bit of a fireside chat. Owen, you've been following my work for quite a while. Did some meetups. You came all the way out to Las Vegas for Unconfiscatable conference and met a lot of cool people. So go ahead, ask me some questions that you really want to know. I'm sure that people want to know the same. And then we'll just do a little bit of a Q&A.
Sounds good. Firstly, I should probably say welcome, Tone. Thanks for coming to Australia.
Thanks
for coming to Byron at no charge.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to coming to Byron.
All right. So one thing I've noticed, I think in your live streams, you're often talking about.
Sorry. The guy was definitely more than tipsy, but he wasn't driving.
He was in the passenger seat.
He jumped off the passenger seat. Let's clear it up. Though you always can't drink, I will give you that. All right, go on. Sorry.
That's all right. So watching some of your price analysis videos from time to time, newcomers especially might get the impression that you're bearish, that you think Bitcoin's going down, or that you're bullish, you think Bitcoin's going up. It's important to think about the time frame. So I understand that when you're doing those day-to-day videos, you're talking sort of short term usually, or unless you say medium long. So thinking about longer term, I want to understand, are you still a Bitcoin bull longer term, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year time horizon, irrespective of the movements day to day and week to week?
That's a good question. So yes, I am still a big Bitcoin bull long term, but there's lots of things in the space that worry me about being a Bitcoin bull long term. We've talked about many of them as we were hanging out over the last 2 days, basically. One of them is the security of the Bitcoin. It's scary. We just spent like a whole conversation on this. Like, how do you protect your Bitcoin? Do you use a Trezor, a ledger, a cold card? Do you connect your cold card? I mean, like, just describe it. Like,
yeah, so I'm trying to upgrade my security, and I won't talk in too much detail about my Bitcoin because you don't ever do that in public.
Oh, no. If you describe that type of security, no one is. It's like, I don't even do that. Like, it's scary for me.
Yeah, so I've got an air-gapped cold card connected to Electrum, connected to my own Electrum Rust server on a full node connected to Bitcoin Core, and it's not easy. Like, I wanted to improve my security and privacy, but Trezor's just so much easier. Fortunately, the Trezor interface and so on is super easy. Well, it's still not super easy, I guess. That's the point,
right.
Isn't it?
So Bitcoin security is still challenging. And so that's a huge barrier to proper Bitcoin adoption. But I don't know if there is a solution to that. I don't know if there will ever be a simple, secure, private way to hold your Bitcoin. This is why most of the industry in Bitcoin are trying to make it as easy as possible. In my days in Brisbane, we were talking about some of the Lightning wallets, and the most user-friendly Lightning wallets, they're custodians of your Bitcoin, but they make it really easy for adoption. So it's this trilemma. Do you want decentralization, privacy and security, or cheap, fast transactions? And this is the big battle. And it's very difficult for Bitcoin to win. It's going to win this battle, but the path to get there is very challenging because there's really no financial incentive to promote Bitcoin for almost anyone. The only people that are really out there promoting Bitcoin are those that happen to have a decent amount of Bitcoin, or they're just trying to promote the right thing to do. Because promoting anything else other than Bitcoin is promoting your own business, and you're profiting from that. So this is the challenge, and that's the scary part. I felt that the community was much better in 2013, 14, 15, before all of these ICOs, before Ethereum did what they did. And And that's the hard path. And I think the road for a new all-time high price for Bitcoin is going to be very challenging. I actually haven't mentioned that. I've been meaning to tweet it out. I made a bet with a really good friend of mine for a really expensive dinner. Actually, he didn't even tell. He told me the restaurant, but he didn't tell me how much it was going to be. And I told him that I did not think that the price of Bitcoin would be above 10,000 for more than 3 months in 2020. That doesn't mean we're going to be down low. It just means that the path to get above 10,000 is going to be difficult. And the reason I think it's going to be difficult is because too many people still believe in fake Bitcoin. And fake Bitcoin has a lot of money and a lot of motivation to trick people into buying the fake Bitcoin.
You mean shitcoins?
Yes.
Yeah, altcoins. So you don't see all, so over 10,000 in 2020, but only for part of it. All-time high, you're thinking 2021, 22, or?
I'm thinking closer to 22. Look, it could happen to 2021.
Okay, but you still think we're going to break all-time highs in the next few years?
Yeah, I got a lot of criticism for being a bear for the last 2 years. And I also got a lot of criticism for not selling all my Bitcoin and shorting the hell out of Bitcoin at the same time, right? So you got to pick one. I was preparing people for the worst while making it clear that I'm holding all of my Bitcoin through cold storage and through the bear market. So those that did the same thing that I did, they were able to sleep fine at night. You know, I held on to my Bitcoin, and at the same time, I prepared people for the worst, you know, hopefully saved some people from wasting it on Lambos and continue to hodl it.
So leading on from that, then where you're expecting an all-time high at some point in the next few years, and then do you think it's going to play out the same as it has? Is it going to be a blow off top and a big drawdown, an 80% drawdown? Can we expect, so especially for newcomers, because I know when I first came in, and which was in 2016, the 2017 bubble, there was this feeling that maybe it wouldn't crash this time around, right? Which I see now as total stupidity. But yeah, what do you think? Are we going to see a big drawdown again after the next top?
So when the next top comes, we're talking the top over 20,000. I was about to say I don't see another 80% drawdown, but we actually could, because if we go from 20,000 to 100,000, a drawdown back to 20,000 is very possible. But I don't think we're gonna have another, 20x. I think the next big run up is gonna be maybe 5x at best. But we are talking 5x from 20,000. So that takes us to about 100. Can we go to 10x? Can we go to 200,000? It's possible, but I don't think so, because the bigger the market cap gets, the harder it is to move.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, the harder it is to crash it down.
Yeah.
So realistically, what do I see? I see the next big exponential wave going into the next halving. So going into the 2024 halving.
2024 halving.
Right. I see a move into 2024 halving to get us to that 100K, 150K range. And then I see a crash down to that maybe 40, 50K range.
So you're thinking the cycles are getting longer, not shorter, like Willy Woo, for instance?
I think the cycles are going to get longer. They're not going to go up as high in percentage, but they're also not going to go down as low as percentage. And that's what we want. We want more stability. And I think more stability would come. Also, by 2024, I think it's hard for me to say the majority. I mean, SegWit, we've had SegWit for almost 3 years now, and only 60% of transactions are SegWit. So let's say after the next halving, people will actually start using Lightning, including myself. I haven't really been using it yet. So Will we have the majority of the people using Lightning by 2024? Probably not. Not by 2024. But once the majority of the people start using Lightning, which is probably around that 2024, 2025 area, my best guess, when you use Lightning, you're using it in Satoshis. So the more people that start using the Lightning Network, the more you start thinking about Bitcoin in terms of Satoshi. And there goes the competitive advantage of things like Ripple that try to sell you a 3 or a 30 cent. Well, why do you want to buy a, 12,000 Aussie dollar Bitcoin? You can buy a 1 Aussie dollar Ripple or whatever it is, right?
The unit bias.
Exactly.
We were just talking about people, they might not be able to afford a whole Bitcoin, but they can afford 10 Litecoins. So they buy the Litecoin instead,
Exactly.
which is really dumb actually. But
so
once we're talking in Satoshis, we're
right.
sub
So
1 cent still.
So the only way the unit bias goes away and Bitcoin gets a competitive advantage in terms of unit bias is if the majority of the people all of a sudden start using Lightning. Now, no one's going to start using Lightning for the unit bias. But I think one of the reasons why a lot of Lightning devs are sticking to the Satoshi unit in Lightning is one reason is because Lightning is meant for fast, small payments. But another reason is to give Bitcoin a unit bias reality that you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. And I think that is going to be awesome. And not only will that drive Bitcoin adoption, it'll also probably make it a lot more stable from a price perspective.
So do you think exchanges will start pricing in Satoshis as well, or you think it'll be led by the Lightning use, where already all of the Lightning wallets talking Satoshis already?
Surprisingly, exchanges on the back end are already using Satoshis because I've seen like even something like BitMax. You guys allowed to trade on BitMax?
Well, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Depends who you ask.
Yeah.
Well,
you don't need a VPN.
If you ask BitMax.
Yeah, you don't need a VPN.
Okay. So like
Arthur.
even BitMax on the back end, like if you get your like I guess your Excel spreadsheet downloaded of your input output out of BitMax from their back end, it'll be in Satoshis. It'll be in the unit of Satoshi. So a lot of the exchanges on the back end are already using Satoshis. So that's what it would be. We do have some.
Yes, bigger. One from the...
I want to take questions from here, but just in case there's a good question in the live chat. Guys, usually during the meetups, I like to give the opportunity for people in the meetup to ask the questions because they're the ones that showed up. So we're going to ignore the live chat more often unless it's like an amazing question.
There's a quick one. Isn't Lightning still complicated to use? Not really. Not with a custodial wallet. Lightning's super easy to use now with the custodial wallet.
It pains me to say to use anything Bitcoin related through a custodian, which means that they're actually in control. But at least with Lightning, you're using it for small transactions. And some of these custodial Lightning wallets are such ease of use.
Yeah, they're super fast.
Now, of course, can they exit scam 1 million people for $5 each?
Yeah.
Sure. But when it comes to Lightning, you have a pure self-controlled solution like probably Zap Wallet on top of the Electrum server.
Yeah, I'm running 2 nodes.
And then you have something like Wall of Satoshi, which is like pure custodial. And then you have something like Blue Wallet that's a little more in between. At the moment, leaning towards custodial, but they're trying to do it. So they're leaning towards your own node. You have so many solutions and people just, like myself included, like Bitcoin transactions have been really cheap and really fast over the last 6 months that I haven't had a need to use Lightning.
Yeah, super cheap.
But either the market is going to force Lightning on me or I'm going to take a little break from all this travel and use Bitcoin the right way when I need to.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought it might have been dollars, but But yeah, I mean, you know, 1 Satoshi per byte's fine most of the time. It's like
$48
couple of
probably
cents.
makes a little more sense.
For a very large transaction, you want to have a really slow confirmation time. Yeah, exactly.
And I just came from New Zealand where I was with Kim.com, and this whole idea of our coin is faster and cheaper, and most of the time it's, you know, Bcash is being touted as faster and cheaper.
Yeah, because they're doing zero conf.
Well, you can do zero conf on Bitcoin too.
And it's also not settled.
But forget zero conf. That there's all these things. So so the whole thing about the confirmation time is very misguided. Yes, Bitcoin takes an average of 10 minutes for a confirmation. And if you send it with a cheap fee, you might take an hour to get that first confirmation. But the point is that while one Bitcoin confirmation is so secure, you need like 20 confirmations on even Litecoin to have the same security. And remember, because one Bitcoin Cash, or Bcash as I like to call it, is 97% cheaper, that means they have 97% less hash power. So it's 97% less secure. So one confirmation on Bcash network is 97% less secure than one confirmation on the Bitcoin network. So you need almost 20 Bitcoin Cash confirmations to get the same security as one Bitcoin confirmation. So when they say it's a zero confirmation transaction on Bcash, well, who cares? Your one confirmation is almost as insecure as your zero confirmation. It's almost irrelevant at that point.
Yeah, the hash rate's so low.
Right. So that's one aspect that they miss. The other, and this is the one I kept trying to explain to Kim, when it's an unfortunate thing, but it has to be that way. Bitcoin transaction fee is denominated in the currency of Bitcoin. There's no other way to go about it. Your transaction is priced in Satoshis per byte. At best, you can pay 1 Satoshi for a transaction, but that's a little too cheap now. But you're either paying 1 Satoshi per transaction, or you're paying 1 Satoshi per byte of the size of your transaction. And all transactions are at least several bytes. But a transaction on the Bcash network is priced in 1 Satoshi. I like calling it the VAR. Like on Bitcoin, you have 1 Satoshi, and on Bcash, it's the VAR, VER. And 1 VAR is 97% cheaper than 1 Satoshi. Therefore, in terms of dollars, your transaction fee on Bcash is always going to be 97% cheaper. And if the value of a Bcash is 99% cheaper than the value of a Bitcoin, then your transactions will always be 99% cheaper. And that is if they had the same volume. That is if they had the same popularity. Just the value of their denomination that the transaction fee is priced in is cheaper. So and that's the big misconception as to why Bcash transactions are so cheap. Their unit is so cheap.
And you're paying for the security when you're using Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And the same applies for other shitcoins like Litecoin, which has a 2.5-minute block time. Like that. So 6 confirmations on Bitcoin is very different to 6 confirmations on Litecoin, because it's actually about time. Like it's about energy use and time. It's like in terms of attacking that network, you need to commandeer a certain amount of electricity and a certain amount of hash power for a certain amount of time, not number of blocks. So the slow block time is a good thing. You're paying for the security, and as Lightning becomes more popular, there'll be a price arbitrage between on-chain and Lightning payments over time. So, Austin, on the next bubble that we're expecting, are you expecting the same level of buzz all of these ICOs, or maybe they'll be IEOs or whatever in the next run up? Or you think they're going to?
I'm really not expecting another altcoin bubble. I think at this point, for those of you that are still holding on to your shitcoins, I think the moment they actually start making money, you're going to sell out. Like every time, you know, Ripple starts to go up, everyone sells their Ripple bags. Anytime, like when BSV just ran up to God knows what, because people for some crazy reason thought that fake Satoshi actually provided something useful and not a bunch of public keys that anybody could have done. Like you sell that shit. Like the moment it came out, everyone is like, oh man, can I still pull my Bcash out, BSV out? I want to sell it. So I think
what about the latest crop, the latest 100 or 1,000 shitcoins that come at the right time and are very thinly traded?
You know, oh man, I'm about to give something away. So we're gonna have a little scammy award show during Unconfiscatable in Las Vegas. It's gonna be called the Scammies. This is a little humble homage to a show called Bitcoin Uncensored that did the Scammies back in 2015. We're gonna look through the Scammies here in 2019, and some of the categories are gonna be like you know, scam of the year from 2019, and you know, best new scam 2019, and it was really hard to find them. There were not many new scams in 2019. All of that shit happened in 2017 and 18. Very few.
Bitcoin Hex.
Exactly. That's probably.
He wanted
look,
to scam me.
I will. We will have, you know, fair voting. We'll have some fair voting. I'm pretty sure Bitcoin Hex will win a few awards. It's not or Hex actually. BSV, right. So BSV came out in like around November of 2018, which clearly nominated for 2019. That's close enough. But there weren't many. I'm actually thinking of having Charlie Levy nominated for something, even though he kind of cashed out at in very early 2018.
There'd be a special award for cashing out.
But yo, wondering what I'm drinking. I should be drinking tequila, but since I haven't eaten in 24 hours, good steaks last night, by the way.
Oh man, that was huge. We had 4 meals between 4 of us. It was like steak, kangaroo loin, beef cheeks, and something else. And then we had the kilo tomahawk as well.
Yeah, so it was, and it wasn't all male either. But we had, each one of us ordered a main course. I had the kangaroo, of course. I'm not in Australia that often. And you had a solid steak. And we had another friend that had also a beef dish. And then we still had a 1 kilo plus tomahawk in between. And everything was...
It makes the 1 meal a day.
And it was completed, yeah. So this is why I'm not drinking tequila and I'm sticking to white wine. I like the sweet wine, so this happens to be a Moscato.
Very good. Shall we take some questions from the group?
Let's do it.
Who has a question?
Good question.
For the mic, the question was, do you still believe that it's going to go down to 3,000 again?
So there's no certainties, right? So I like to think of it in percentage terms. So I think there is still a 20% chance we go down to 3,000. Now, obviously, in order for me to be convinced it's going to 3,000, I need to believe in that more than 50%. So even if I believed in it more than 50%, even if I believed in it 51%, my answer would be leaning yes over no. So because I'm only giving it a 20% chance that we go to 3,000, I'm leaning towards no, clearly. If you ask me, do I think we're gonna go lower than the recent low of 6,500? I'm still giving that a 60% chance. So lower than 6,500, I'm at 60%. Lower than 3,000, I'm at 20. So anywhere in between 3,000 and 6,500, now I'm in between. If you ask me where my 50-50 zone is, my 50-50 zone is 5,000. Will we drop below 5,000? 50-50. Will we fall below 6.5? 60%. Will we fall below 5,000? Less than 50%. I have an open bet with Ran of Crypto Trader that Bitcoin will fall to 4,500 before the halving. What's my confidence that I'm gonna win that bet? At the moment, since it's below 5,000, I'm giving it a 40% chance that I will win that bet. So,
How much?
Steak dinner.
Steak dinner is on the bet, yeah. So the way to handle all that, of course, is to just dollar cost average. You're happy if the price goes down. You're happy if the price goes up. A little bit each week. Maybe a bit of trading for fun as well, but
there's two ways to handle it, right? There's dollar cost average, and if you believe in Bitcoin, like some of us, including myself, you just go all in at any point. It's better to go all in near the bottom than near the top. But one of my stories is I had a friend. It was a college friend of mine, but it was his brother. But you know, you all know each other. And he had a really nice business going, and I'm not gonna say he went all in, but he bought a decent chunk at the very top of the 2013 bubble, like in that $1,200-1,300 range. Or I think it was like 1150. It was over 1,000 for sure. And then for 3 years, he was in a losing position.
Yeah.
He didn't sell. And I kept telling him, just hold it, hold it, hold it. At least he didn't panic at the bottom, but he ended up selling when it got back to his break even in early 2017. And I told him, this is the time to go in more.
When you've broken the all-time high.
When you've broken the all-time high. Don't sell now. You waited for 3 years to get back to your break even. Just keep, at this point, you keep holding. There is a time to sell your break even. That's when, if you're lucky enough, like I don't think the shitcoins will ever get back to their break even. But if you can get close to your break even after the top of the bubble, you know, like when Bitcoin topped at 20,000, it went down to 6, and then it went all the way back to like 12, or at first it only went down to 10, and then it went back to 15, 16. And I was actually bullish at that, you know, 16, 15, but that's because I wasn't looking to get out at break even. There's time to try and get out at break even when you're going into the top, but not after a long period of time when you're about to break out. It took the NASDAQ 15 years to get back to break even. The 2000 bubble top wasn't the 2000 bubble top. The next time the NASDAQ went to break even was it around 2015, and then it doubled. And I think it's now more than double since then. Like it crushed it. You know, that's not the time to sell your NASDAQ shares in 2015.
So
when
if we break another all-time high, 20,000, that may actually, in a way, that's a really good entry point too, because the chances of it going higher, you know, it's a much more certain bet, but you obviously have missed out on the gains in the meantime. At
this point in time, considering it's already been 2 years and we're still down more than 50% from the all-time high, I think the safest time to enter Bitcoin will be at 20,000, at $19,750. That will probably be the safest time to buy into Bitcoin.
In terms of certainty, but you've
missed
out on the gains in the meantime.
Correct. Yeah. Sure, you've missed out on the gains from 3,000 to 20,000. But in terms of certainty of a trade, that's when I will be most certain.
I'm looking forward to that trade. Another question? You still got one? I'm not going to repeat that verbatim, but I'll let you talk on that.
Rephrase the question.
So the the question about Tone's recent visit with Kim.com, and Tone was also, I think, involved in Kim's decision to not do the ICO, right? But yeah, I agree. I'm still confused by Kim's point of view on the government wanting to shut down Bitcoin and it not working and needing this other thing that he's working on. But have I paraphrased that okay?
Yeah. So a few comments. Yeah. So I was instrumental, or I assisted in Kim canceling the public token sale, which I'm happy about. What's the best way to answer it? I was considering Kim invited me into his home, and I spent 3 nights there. I was more than critical to Kim. Let's just say I actually sent a text to apologize about how critical I've been, because more so privately than publicly, right? Because you guys actually saw, like me, I was there for 3 days, and like maybe 5 hours of it was streamed live, right? So I was more than critical enough privately that you guys don't even know about.
Who are the Bcashers? So
But that's their life's existence, is to twist Bitcoin for their personal propaganda, right? I'm not even surprised. But look, when you stream live for 4 hours, there's always going to be a 30-second clip where even I say something, completely stupid. You got to put it all in context. Now, having said that, I have a ton of respect for Kim.com.
Likewise.
Like what he did with mega uploads, his fight against, government entities, his fight against corruption, his fight against overreach, his fight for freedom. So, like, there's only so critical I can be because I see the bigger picture, okay? And we all have biases, and certain people get a pass. For example, if you look at the speaker list of Unconfiscatable, everyone is as Bitcoin maximalist as I can get to speak there. But I still get criticism about Max Kaiser. Max Kaiser at one point was pushing a coin called Cork. There were others.
EOS briefly. And,
which one?
EOS.
Oh, EOS
for a little while.
Really? You sure?
Yeah,
that came later.
They were going to be block producers, but then they got over it.
They got out of it. He has his own coin called Max Coin,
yeah.
right? I mean, I remember those days. But Max Kaiser will always get a pass from me, always. And the reason is because if it wasn't for Max Kaiser, I wouldn't be here. I found out about Bitcoin through Max Kaiser. I didn't have a friend to show Bitcoin to me. I didn't go to Bitcoin meetups. Well, more importantly, who watched the Kaiser report in 2012 and 2013? I did. I was watching the Kaiser report as far back as 2011. And that's when I heard about Bitcoin for the first time. And then I heard about it again and again and again. And by 2013, I was getting in. So, sure, Max went through his, shitcoin phase. And I think I was also instrumental because later on, I learned about it from Max Kaiser, but then Max Kaiser became a fan of my work. And I think I was one of the guys that helped turn him from altcoins back into more Bitcoin. And I always have respect for Max Kaiser. And now I think he's doing an amazing job. So he'll always get a pass from me because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. Even though I remember some of the altcoins he was promoting at the time, but more importantly, you recognize that, Cork was insanity. And, Startcoin was another one, if you remember.
No, I don't remember.
That was his joint venture. Startcoin was another one. So, but it's where you eventually end up. And I always respect people that start out in the shitcoin land and then, become more a Bitcoin maximalist. I give them respect. I remember Peter McCormick was way more open to altcoins. Now he leans a little bit towards Bitcoin. People like Sadi Decree, if you haven't watched his YouTube channel, I'm friends with him. You know, he's way leaning more Bitcoin now. Like, I see the path that you're going, not the path where it's more towards which direction you're going to, not where you've been. For me, anyway.
The question was, don't we think we all head that way? I certainly agree. It's like, I think it's inevitable that you become a Bitcoin maximalist if you stay in the
Not
space.
necessarily.
Or you leave,
because,
I think.
Well, that's not true at all. Look at Richard Hart.
Or you launch your own shitcoin.
Right. Look at Richard Hart. He was, I mean, like, one of the reasons why he was on the World Crypto Network and he was even on my podcast is because I saw him as a Bitcoin maximalist. But look at him now, starting his, like, not everyone goes from, I mean, some people go from Bitcoin to shitcoins back to Bitcoin. Some people start with shitcoins, go to Bitcoin. Those are the people I respect the most. But then there are people that go from Bitcoin to shitcoins and not turning back to Bitcoin.
But then
Richard Hart's an example. Roger Ver is an example.
But maybe they were just buddying up with Bitcoin as an affinity scam all along. Some people are pretending to be really pro-Bitcoin. It's like, oh, like this recent Nakamoto Telegram group and website there.
Pretending. I think he was just in it for gain. He didn't care about the tech, and when it didn't move fast enough, he put it down on screen.
Yeah, he was crying that time. That's right.
So here's the thing, right? I'm not in the business of figuring out your personal brain motives. I'm not gonna sit here, brainstorm, and tell you my opinion whether Richard Hart did it on purpose to be a Bitcoin maximalist to gain support, knowing full well he was looking to exit scam, or he was genuinely a Bitcoin maximalist and then decided to exit scam, or he was genuinely a Bitcoin maximalist and he doesn't even realize that he's running a scam and he actually believes in it. Yeah. To me, it's almost irrelevant. It doesn't make a difference. Like, do I want to spend my time figuring out if you know you're a scammer or you're going to be a scammer by accident and you don't realize it? It's almost not important. If I see that you are running a scam, it's not relevant whether you're doing it on purpose and you know that you're a scammer or you don't know you're a scammer. It may be relevant, it may not be relevant, but I have better things to do with my time to figure it out. The same thing happens when you're pitching some kind of a project that you're gonna ICO. Is it like, do I really care? Like, if I know your project is insane, not only from a regulatory perspective, but from a concept perspective, does it really matter to me if you know that you know it's nonsense? It really doesn't, as long as I know that it's nonsense. So I try not to assume what that person is thinking. I just don't go along with the reasoning. Like, people ask me all the time, Tone, do you think Roger Ver is scamming on purpose? Do you think he really believes in Bitcoin Cash? Do you think he's a government agent, you know, still working for the US government, even though he gave up the passport? I'm like, guys, I don't care. It's irrelevant to me. What's relevant is he's promoting a fake Bitcoin. I don't care about why he's doing it. Whether he's doing it maliciously or not maliciously is somewhat irrelevant to me personally.
Another question, Danny?
With I'm just interested in uptake. So we've got 5 years, and then there's been functional and being taken on by shops and people being able to use their bitcoins. So is that going to, that you're saying that's going to happen about 4 or 5 years from now, when that's going to become people actually bitcoins?
So I'll repeat the question. The question is, in 4 or 5 years, when Bitcoin adoption, when Bitcoin hyper Bitcoinization happens, will people be more willing to spend their Bitcoin? In general, Bitcoin spending has always increased at the top of bull runs because you become richer. The current holders of Bitcoin become richer. There's, I'm only gonna, I mean, like, I've been saying for years, I drive a 10-year-old car. I mean, that can't possibly be true, right? Like, I can't be saying for 3 years straight, I'm driving a 10-year-old car.
You could keep buying.
It's 12 years old now because I've been saying it for over 2 years, right? Like, there's only so long I'm gonna drive my 12-year-old car at this point. It's literally 12. It's a 2008 car that I currently drive. I don't drive it that much, which is probably why I still have it, because I'm never in the States. But there's only so long I'll keep driving that car. It's either gonna break down on me, or eventually it's gonna be embarrassing to, pick up a girl in a 15-year-old car. Like, sooner or later, I'm buying a new car. And I am more likely to buy that new car when Bitcoin is at 25,000 than when Bitcoin's at 10,000. Okay, so Bitcoin spending tends to go up when Bitcoin price is high. So if everyone wants to spend their Bitcoin, that's when more merchants are interested in accepting their Bitcoin. So yes, I am expecting Bitcoin transactions to greatly increase at the next bull run, real bull run, like above 20K bull run. And in order for you to actually spend that Bitcoin cheaply and quickly, you will have to start using the Lightning Network. Maybe not to buy a car.
Fees are going to be high.
Right, because fees are going to go up. I mean, like, if I'm buying a car, if I'm going to buy a Tesla, and trust me, it's going to be a Tesla. If I'm going to buy a Tesla, I'm happy to pay for that Tesla with a non-chain transaction fee of $100, right? But if I'm going to start spending my Bitcoin for another wine, it's going to be a Lightning transaction. But either way, I'm more looking to spend when it's hitting all-time highs than when it's 75% down.
But it might not, in the near future, it might not be a very predominant payment system still. It might very much become clear that it's more like gold. We don't spend gold day to day either, right? So who knows? Another question? Anything from over this side?
Come on, guys, fire away. You can ask it on camera now. Oh, God.
Talking about the community, where Bitcoin community being so small and so split, especially around this topic of multi-coiners and shitcoins. But even within people who consider themselves very pro Bitcoin, there's sometimes pointing at others and, oh, you're not as hardcore as me. There's a bit of that going on, I think.
Look, I'm gonna, you know what? Maybe I'll just quote Peter Todd. Everyone who here is familiar with the name Peter Todd?
Only a few.
A few. Okay. So Peter Todd is, I'm gonna call him a Bitcoin contributor. So Peter Todd, he is basically an independent consultant that does security audits of your crypto projects code. So you call Peter Todd to audit your code, usually privately. And he's very critical of a lot of things in Bitcoin. He is considered a very good code reviewer, pretty good coder, and he has emails with Hal Finney and the early, basically there's emails of him trying to do what Satoshi did.
He was this
creating
close.
proof of work. He was really this close. Emails back and forth with Hal Finney.
He's old.
15. He was 15, emailing back and forth with Hal Finney, the guy that most people think was actually the Bitcoin creator. Him or Szabo are the lead candidates. And Peter Todd is in an intelligent computer science discussion with him to create proof of work when he was 15. So Peter Todd is very well respected. And even like the Bitcoin coders, Bitcoin core developers don't always like him because he's very critical and he's very, very smart, incredibly smart. And he says the following: I disagree a lot with Bitcoin core developers and some of the things that they do, but at least their ideas are not batshit crazy like everything else in crypto, right? Like, so the problem with the concept like the Peace Summit that Kim wants to do is that when you have someone that creates something so idiotic and then tries to get you to meet in the middle and compromise, it's also insanity, right? Like, it's like the way I was trying to explain this whole concept of, well, we want a bigger block. But if you don't want to do a bigger block, let's compromise and meet in the middle. But a bigger block, to me, it's almost like saying, Owen and I want to do this meetup, right? So Owen lives in Australia for a little while longer. I live on the other side of the world. We're trying to decide where to do this meetup. And if we can't agree for him to come to me and for me to come to him, we can actually meet in the middle. We can find a country in the middle, you know, somewhere with a direct flight from the US and Australia. Maybe it's Dubai, maybe it's whatever, maybe it's Istanbul. There's lots of countries. We can literally meet in the middle. But if Owen says, let's do this meetup, I want to do it on Mars. I'm like, well, I want to do it on Earth. It's like, and then someone else said, why don't you guys meet in the middle?
And then I start a propaganda campaign about how good it would be to have a meetup on Mars.
Right.
I changed my name to Roger.
And it's like, we can't meet in the middle because your position is insane. Like there's no middle. Like we don't, it can't happen. So when one side is complete nonsense, you can't meet in the middle. And when that side has almost way more money to promote their position, it creates a problem for reality side. So I don't really know how else to explain it.
Yeah, well, I'd say it's a meritocracy. Like Bitcoin is, and people who are working on Bitcoin and creating software in the space and so on, it's totally, the hardcore Bitcoiners, it's all about merit. It has to actually work and be a damn good idea. It's not about not hurting your feelings or.
Yeah.
So when you see a lot of toxicity, I think it's often for a good reason, because the idea that you're talking about is a fucking stupid idea, like big blocks, because that disincentivizes decentralization, which is what enforces the whole project, man.
And here's the thing, right? The idea of a big block, because you can't force everyone to update your node, when the science of the situation is telling you that you, even if you could go to a bigger block, the science says that you should not. Add the fact that you actually can't go to a bigger block because you can't get everyone to agree to update the code. My analogy of you want to do it on Mars and I want to do it on Earth, and let's meet in the middle, that is actually possible. We could both go to space on a space station or a rocket to meet in the middle to have a meeting. Like that, it makes more sense. Like I actually need something that is impossible to achieve, because it is actually impossible to get everyone to switch a node.
So yeah, talking a bit about hard forks and the problem with hard forks.
Well, and that's why it's hard to argue this point when they tell you like, Tone, like, you know, we could have had a bigger block if only you would have supported a bigger block. My answer to this, no, then I would have also been a laughing stock and hated like Roger Ver by the actual Bitcoin community.
Another question? Yes.
Isn't that just going to inevitably make everything centralized? Because it's the big thing that we all can't something like an AMD motherboard and build everything for yourself and store it and build the code yourself. How do we know that the government is going to go? The bit is take a tiny bit of cloud computing, make this to help promote their side, like they're saying, they're trying to get us to go to. So that, yeah, therefore they're helping the cost on their side turn unless we make them come to us. Basically, like, how are we going to avoid that? The way I see it, we're going to have to just go open source and fully decentralized, like as in just pure and get the end to end, peer to peer, knowing if it's exchange, if it's centralized, and Bitcoin is trying to go to get rewritten. So it's upset all these backdoors.
Well, the audience can't hear you, but like I still haven't heard a question yet. Like
Yeah,
those are just comments.
What do you think about Bitcoin being centralized or decentralized, closed source eventually, or open source?
Oh,
Well,
Bitcoin will never go closed source. It's impossible. So,
So there were two questions there in the. So two questions: is Bitcoin going to be centralized or decentralized? And then the second part of the question was: is it going to be open source or closed source, and the risks around that? So no, well, I wouldn't say it's getting more centralized. Let Tone answer. Okay. Touching on Antminer backdoors as well. So yeah, let's come back to it.
So, yeah. So, look. So, it's a very complicated question. I'm probably not the most technologically inclined to answer it, but I'll do the best I can. This concept of is Bitcoin decentralized? It's a very interesting topic because Bitcoin has a system of checks and balances. It has the core development of the code. That code is used in mining to mine the Bitcoin. But then there are nodes. There are, on a grand scale, there's three types of nodes. There are mining nodes. There are economic nodes, and there are user nodes. I am a user node. Owen is a user node. Coinbase, blockchain.info.com, they are economic nodes. And a mining farm using ant miners is a mining node. I'm summarizing, right? So there are multiple types of nodes. There is core development, and there is the mining network that are also mining nodes, but the mining network, right? So when someone says Bitcoin mining is centralized, even I can argue that Bitcoin mining is not centralized. I can argue that Bitcoin mining is decentralized because China, I don't believe, mines most of the Bitcoins, right? So we can argue all day whether Bitcoin mining is centralized or decentralized. But even if Bitcoin mining is centralized, it doesn't mean that Bitcoin is centralized because you're forgetting about the other two parts that make Bitcoin decentralized. Bitcoin code development and user nodes like Owen and myself. Okay, so in order for Bitcoin to be actually centralized, Bitcoin mining code has to be centralized. Bitcoin nodes have to be centralized. And Bitcoin mining has to be centralized. And not only do all three of them have to be centralized, all three of them have to be centralized by the same entity. So even if Bitcoin coding is centralized and Bitcoin nodes are centralized, if they are, all three of them are enemies, and they all hate the other two, it is still somewhat decentralized. So this concept that Bitcoin is actually centralized is crazy. And all three of them, in my view, are completely decentralized because Bitcoin code is completely open source, but open source doesn't mean anything, right? You can have open source code with one developer. It just means that it's like kind of open and anyone can suggest shit and one guy has the keys to actually make changes. That's not true in Bitcoin. Multiple people, and they all check each other, have admin rights. I loved it that they took away Gavin and Andresen admin rights finally, and it took one statement to do it. I believe Craig Wright is Satoshi. The day Gavin Andresen said it is the day he got his Bitcoin admin code privileges revoked. Okay, like all it takes is one historically dumb statement. Whether you're drunk or high when you say it is kind of irrelevant at that point, right?
But part of your
Look, I don't know how the Bitcoin core development rules work, but I believe at one point there were 5 people with admin rights to the Bitcoin code, and my best guess is 4 of them voted out Gavin and Andresen.
but anyone else could. Anyone else?
Who are they? I know Greg Maxwell is one, and I'm sure
Anyone can contribute. You can contribute.
Anyone
you can
can,
look at the Bitcoin code.
How do they become
Jedi in the Bitcoin Foundation? How did they get stated? If we don't know who Satoshi is, how have these guys got admin codes to the code?
Anybody can change it.
Well,
It's
no,
open
no, no,
source.
no. Only very few people.
The Bitcoin
can-
core.
The
version,
Bitcoin, right?
0.19.
Anyone can contribute changes, but there's a small group of people that can actually like make your suggestion possible in the code. How that functions, I'm sure, is Googleable,
Yeah.
and I'm sure it's explained on Bitcoin.org, but I can't answer the question.
Just look up Google open source development.
They are very important. What's his name? Vladimir Vanderland is one of them. I mean, it's Googleable. I can Google it right now. Who are the Bitcoin Core devs with admin credentials?
Yeah, but who gave them the admin credentials? Did they write themselves in?
Eventually,
They get a board of directors, right?
Satoshi.
Oh, Satoshi. So those guys know Satoshi.
Maybe not by person. They could have. Right.
Yeah, you need to just Google
well,
open
when
source
you say-
software development and see how it works.
When you say no Satoshi, they could have just been emailing back and forth, right? Does Adam Back know Satoshi? I mean, Adam Back has said many times he had email conversation with Satoshi even before the white paper. And then Adam Back had many conversations with Satoshi, but if you ask Adam Back, did you meet Satoshi in person? He's going to say no. Whether he met him or not, we'll never know. So when you say those people knew Satoshi, it's possible they knew who he was. It's possible it wasn't even a he, and it was a group. But the point is, I believe there are 5 people that have actual keys to change the Bitcoin code.
So there is some governance.
Oh, there's governance. Yeah.
So it's centralized.
Well, it depends. I mean, someone has to approve. If you
So you can
suggest,
use whatever version of the software you want on your node. So it's like what.
If the 5 key holders get together.
Yeah, they can put a
Yeah.
version of software on GitHub.
but you don't have to use it.
But you don't have to use it.
You don't have to use it.
We can use our own version. We can stick with an old version. Anyone can.
Of course. Right.
Well,
So this.
we don't vote on what they put on GitHub. They're admins.
Okay. Hold on, guys. So this is what I was saying. There's 3 things: the Bitcoin core development, the mining, and the users, like myself and Owen and yourself, right? So even if Bitcoin core development got centralized to the point of corruption, there are still two additional elements of decentralization. So even if you felt that this group of core developers is corrupt and they put something into the code that's a backdoor to the government, we as users don't have to use it. We can say, fuck you, we're gonna use the old version of the code, and here are our new group of now 10 people with keys to change this code going forward. And if we don't like what they're doing, we're not gonna use that code either.
We'll just fork them off.
Yes. Yes.
And
Right.
coming back,
They can they can change the code, but you don't have to use it.
yeah.
Oh, of course.
But we just fork away.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have
Right.
to download the new
Right.
version of the software.
So-
If they went rogue. Yes, if the
No.
core developers have admin
They
rights on the GitHub
could.
project,
They could, but they will just create another shitcoin. They'll
fork
create
away
another. They'll fork away from Bitcoin. They could, but if they but if right now no, but that's the other side, right? This is the triangle, right? You have miners, you have people that write the code, and you have the users. The miners have the 51% attack part. These guys have nothing to do with 51% attack. The 51% attack is a mining attack. So that comes from a different side of the triangle. And if that 51% attack tries to do something, then the users can reject it. And the code.
well, like, so the question is it bulletproof? And it comes back to your question before. The two questions were, will it remain open source, and will there be backdoors in hardware? So the answer is that it has to remain open source to succeed. If it becomes a closed source version, we'll fork off from it. We'll stop. We won't use Fed coin or CIA coin. We'll fork off. The users can enforce that by running full nodes. That's why we run full nodes. And the other part, does it need to not be backdoors? Well, yeah. And there are people looking into this, and there's talk of Raspberry Pis having backdoors. There's talk of IBM laptops with backdoors. So the mining equipment is there's often chips made in-house. So maybe Antminer's had backdoors. There's a lot of different mining manufacturers now, so that probably helps. They're not all working together. So yeah, we have to be aware of that. It's beyond my level of technical ability, but yeah, it has to remain open source, and we have to ensure that the hardware is open source as well.
And think of it another way. Right.
And yeah, so the core developers, the ones who have admin rights on GitHub, if they ever get corrupted, we'll fork them off as well. It's no problem. Let's start a new GitHub channel and start a new version of the software.
Bitcoin is not created by a company. For example, Microsoft is a company that makes Windows. But I don't know if it is like that today, but even like a few years ago, Bitcoin XP or XT was it?
Yeah.
XT.
Big block.
Not Bitcoin, sorry, Microsoft XP, right? Which one was it?
Yeah, XP.
One of the Microsoft XP was still the most popular version of Windows. And Microsoft stopped supporting it years later, but the majority of the people were using it, right? So let's say Microsoft XP did not have any backdoors, and all future Microsoft software had backdoors. Now, because Microsoft is a corporation, they stopped supporting XP. So eventually, you have to use a new version of Microsoft because you don't have a community that is supporting and fixing bugs and making XP better without the backdoor. But in Bitcoin, there is no copyright. There is no corporation. So if you have that Microsoft XP that everyone likes, the users, there's no backdoor. There's no government spying in Bitcoin XP. The moment Microsoft starts making new versions that the users hate, screw it. We're just going to keep using Bitcoin XP, and we have our own guys that will make it better from this point on. And that's how you get these Bitcoin forks. But the fork can happen through the code, from nodes, but there are so many checks and balances. Look, is Bitcoin going to be this good and this decentralized forever? We don't know. But decentralization is hard. It's really, really hard.
And it's impossible to say how much is enough decentralization. You can't really answer that question. We basically always need to be striving for more decentralization. That's why we need to keep blocks small. It needs to be easy and cheap to run a full node, or we lose power and CIA coin can take over.
Oh, so people are asking who you are, Owen.
Hello, I'm Owen.
Now that we've been on for like over an hour,
I'm just a Bitcoin pleb.
Do one more quick intro.
I'm just a Bitcoin pleb living near Byron Bay and trying to teach people about sound money. That's my interest.
No, Owen he came out to Vegas for Unconfiscatable, runs meetups here.
Yep.
Bitcoin
only.
Bitcoin only, gets into a lot of fights with Aussies about shitcoinery. So we like Owen.
Any more questions?
I got some battery life left. I also do want to eat at some point.
Breeze, apparently that's a non-custodial Lightning.
Yeah, so a question about the Breeze Lightning wallet.
Actually, no,
I don't actually know the answer.
I've already had 3 drinks and I haven't eaten in 24 hours.
Breeze is apparently a good Lightning wallet. I'm not actually sure if it's
Which
custodial or not. Breeze.
I'm not familiar with Breeze.
It's only a week old. I haven't looked into it yet. Apparently it's not non-custodial.
The only Lightning wallets that I've actually used are I used Claire, I used Blue, and I in Brisbane I was introduced to Wall of Satoshi.
Yeah, I hear Breeze is good as well. Who's used Lightning? Nobody. 1, 2, 3. Oh, cool. Yeah. So super fast. Has it always worked for you? Not always. You're using the Casa? Using the Casa running your own node? Yeah. So you can have trouble when you're running your own node with liquidity, with balancing channels inbound and outbound, and finding payment paths. I've had the same problem. That's why there's more people using the custodial Lightning for now, because they're running nodes well. But that's early days, and we'll see. Hopefully it keeps improving.
Where's the biggest country that's got the biggest uptake? The country that's got the biggest uptake.
Where's the country with the most uptake in terms of trading volume?
Just retail.
There's a
Retail,
cool
I'd say Australia is probably up there.
Oh, for retail, yeah.
In terms of retail,
Does
yeah.
it travel by bit? You
Yeah.
know those guys?
Japan's
Japan,
probably not bad. Germany is pretty good. Australia, I think Australia is probably up there. You guys are definitely in the top 5. US, obviously. UK is pretty popular. Amsterdam is good too.
That's in terms of merchants accepting. But there's another really cool website that I can't remember the name of. Fiat, Dump Fiat or something. Anyone in the live chat know? Where it shows you where all the trading volumes. Fiat Leak, Fiat Leak website's cool. You can see the trading volumes globally and see who's waking up and buying and selling.
Hey, I see hard forking in the live chat. Hey, Sean. So here's a good question. Are the 5 people with admin permissions paid? If not, why not? Well, I'm going to throw a question back at you. Who's going to pay them? Again, Bitcoin is not a corporation. One of those 5 people was the CTO of Blockstream, which was certainly paying him, but he quit a little while ago to just be on his own. A lot of these 5 people, and I'm saying 5, it may not be 5.
Might not be 5, yeah, I'm not sure.
Right? Yeah, I know it was 5 at one point, like 4 years ago, but I don't know anymore. I haven't paid attention. I probably should pay attention, but I've been busy. So a lot of them have been Bitcoiners since 2011. So they should be financially okay.
Yeah, they got skin in the game.
They got a lot of skin in the game.
They want the project to work for that reason. So a couple are paid now in sort of internship type things, like Andrew Chow, Blockstream and a couple of other companies are paying these guys to just focus on upkeep of the code. But no, there's no amount of money set aside for developers. No, that's sometimes an argument that comes up from time to time. I'm sure it will come up again as a reason to introduce more inflation into Bitcoin to pay the developers. But we haven't really needed it. It's dangerous to implement something like that because then you have a central bank situation where you've got a bunch of people who are in charge of getting paid to do it. Maybe we don't want that. So people who've got skin in the game, hold some Bitcoin, are interested in it because it's the most complicated thing they can find in the world to work on because they're crazy intelligent people. They're probably the right ones to be doing it.
Oh, if the question was, are the admins of the Vays YouTube chat paid? No, there's like 500 admins of the Vays YouTube channel, and that's mostly because I have slow mode on because there's too much nonsense in my live chat. And being an admin of Vays live chat just means you don't have to deal with the slow mode, and you also have free will to ban people. So you just became an admin actually because I know who you are. All right. What are any more questions, or should we just get food?
Food and drink time.
Well,
no burning questions?
I think I've had enough to drink. I should probably eat food. It's been a good 24 hours. Oh wait, it's been over 24 hours
like
because we had lunch yesterday.
Yeah, it's 3 o'clock we ate.
So we ate at 3, and it's now what, 8?
29 hours.
Yeah, so I'm on 29 hours no food and
a couple of wines
and 3 glasses of wine.
Does it
so
every day.
and I was actually hungrier like 5 hours ago.
I did eat a huge meal in front of you earlier today.
That didn't bother me. You ate it so fast that I didn't even realize there was food in front of me. What's up? Yeah, the article gets published
Perfect segue
this
for
week.
a shill for the new blog post.
All right, guys, you know what? Let me do a quick screen share. I wasn't gonna do it, but I will. Quick screen share. I just wanna I wanna glance at the price of Bitcoin for myself. This is actually the blog I'm working on for the food. I'm curious what the price of Bitcoin is, and yeah, we've pulled back quite a bit. We hit 9,200 on this run up. We never made it to a daily 9. We're pulling back now, and let the price update. Oh wow, we are pulling back. 86. I really think this run up is over. I think we just got rejected by the 200-day moving average. And at this point, the more likely path is all the way back down. So that's the most likely path. Doesn't mean that's the only path. So I am going to go a little bit bearish.
To 7.6 or something.
The U.S. markets should be open. I'm going to quickly glance at the little pullback, nothing much. We'd have to wait another day. And of course, hey guys, if you want to support, check out tonevays.com affiliate. If you want to come out to Vegas for Unconfiscatable, tickets are on sale. The Financial Summit in DR and Bali is also on sale. And I'm going to leave it here. Thank you, everyone, for coming out.
Let's move this around.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out to the
thank you.
Byron Bay Meetup. And we're going to get some food, and we're going to hang out here for a bit. I'm not in a rush. And next stop, Sydney. I'll be in Sydney tomorrow. And the Meetup, I believe, is Wednesday. So I'll see the Sydney crew there. All right. Bye, guys. Thank you for watching us live.
Thank you, Tony.